the Arab world, growth is tremendous, but still there's room to really catch up with the world. And of course, the COVID pandemic slowed down global tourism industry in the past years, but we're out of the pandemic now. We're seeing great potentials ahead. To start this session, I have a great panel here, and we have His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, the Saudi Minister of Tourism.
Thank you.
His Excellency Mr. Zurab Polikashvili, the Secretary General for the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And of course, Sami Sawaris, founder for Orscom Development Holding from Egypt. So let's start with this conversation by coming back here to Saudi Arabia. This is not my first time in Saudi Arabia. It has many charms, but I think I have a lot more to see. From data, what I found out is like in the past year, tourism in Saudi Arabia grew tremendously. So for His Excellency Minister Al-Khatib, how has Saudi Arabia achieved so tremendous tourism growth?
Thank you very much. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome my friends, Secretary General and my friend Samih, and to thank Abu Abdulaziz, His Excellency Al-Falih, for inviting us to speak in this panel. I don't want to talk about the pandemic. It's behind us. And as part of His Excellency statements and the UNWTO forecasts and the World Travel and Tourism Council forecasts, we're expecting to fully recover this year and go back to the pre-pandemic years, and then start from here to achieve 132% growth in international inbounds or international arrivals by 2032, as per of the most recent report published by the WTTC. Let me first talk about the umbrella, the Arab market, or the Arab. This is a Arab-China conference. If I look at the Arab region, from a space or population, it counts about 8-9% of the global space and population. And our market share in the travel market back in 2019 was about 4%. So we have not get our fair market share in the Arab market, and therefore many Arab countries are working very hard to move the contribution of the travel and tourism into or increase the contribution of travel and tourism in their GDPs. So we are on average in the Arab countries around 7%, and the global average of travel and tourism contribution to the global economy or global GDP is about 10%. I like numbers because I'm a banker. I always like to quote numbers, and numbers never always tell the truth. And therefore, we have a mandate, and we are very well responsible to expand our contribution to the global travel and tourism market. Yes. And that's why my friend Zurab was coming to this region, because he sees the potential in the Arab world, and he believes in our agenda and our plans, and he believes that this region, especially the Middle East region, is a region that is recovering very fast, and it will contribute into the growth of the global travel and tourism market. And the proof of that, in the first quarter, as you showed us, Zurab, the Middle East region is the fastest region that recovers from the pandemic among all the 5 regions. If I zoom into Saudi Arabia, we have been relying on oil, and His Royal Highness, the Minister of Energy, was here just before the lunch break, and he was talking about the energy and the future of the energy. And we are an oil-based economy, and with Vision 2030, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince wants to explore every opportunity in the Saudi economy in order to further diversify the economy and increase the resilience of the economy. And therefore, travel and tourism was one of the main pillars in Vision 2030. And from there, we started to put our plans. Back in 2019, travel and tourism accounts for about 3% of the jobs market and the contribution to GDP. We are today at about 4 to 4.5, heading to the 10% promise that was an outcome of the national tourism strategy.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia is investing over $800 billion in the next 10 years. That's why Samih is here. He wants to be part of this, and he wants to participate in this. And he announced a few investments in Saudi Arabia in a very unique destinations. And I encourage and I invite all the Chinese investors to come and invest in Saudi Arabia, and also to the travel companies to encourage the very important Chinese travelers who counts for 10% of the global travel market. Back in 2019, 1.6 billion people traveled. 154 million Chinese, means almost 10% of the travel market comes from China. And the main purpose of the Chinese travelers are they're looking for history and heritage. And I think our region and Saudi Arabia is full of and rich of history and heritage. And therefore, we're very optimistic about our relationship with China, whether at the Arab region level or at Saudi Arabia in specific.
So absolutely, as His Excellency Minister had mentioned, this part of the world has a lot to see. Actually, the Middle East and the Arab world has always been pretty mysterious to Chinese travelers. But sometimes it's also about accessibility. For example, easier to get visas. I know right now people can apply for an e-visa to Saudi Arabia that can save a lot of time, a lot of trouble, just fill out a form on the internet. But again, culture or heritage can also be other charms to attract visitors here. Let's come to the UN WTO's recent reports. There are many things here in Saudi Arabia and also across the Arab world are ranked pretty high, right? The values, the heritage. What are some of the most important things here for the world to see?
Thank you. Again, I want to welcome our guests, dear friends. Very happy to be part of this very important meeting. By the way, this is one of the first meetings when China and Saudi Arabia or any countries has such big event with Chinese entrepreneurs. I want to thank His Excellency Minister of Investment, our host, who was half of his speech talking about tourism and the importance of tourism and Chinese tourists worldwide. Of course, China is one of the biggest markets worldwide, and more than 1,000 days China was closed. And I had the honor, and I can talk a lot about your question, I had the honor to be with the Minister Hu to announce China open. It was just 2 months ago. It means that 2 months ago, after 1,000 days of closing country, Chinese tourists starting traveling. You mentioned visas. By the way, we are coming with His Excellency just from Jordan. We inaugurated the ministerial meeting for Arab Middle East countries. The day after tomorrow, I'm going to Cambodia to celebrate the same kind of commission for Asia. It's a coincidence, and I stopped here to attend this very important meeting. Next step will be, and we will continue in September, we are going to celebrate together GTF, which is one of the biggest and very important World Tourism Economy Forum in Macau. We are partnering, and this will be 10th anniversary. We are going back to back to come then from 23rd of September, which is, if I remember, was Saudi National Day, to come here in Riyadh and celebrate together World Tourism Day. There will be the place, again, Riyadh, where China, that moment, and Chinese entrepreneurs will meet the world. Until today, in tourism sector, in tourism industry, China was isolated, and this will be the day where all the world will come, and we will celebrate first in Macau, then here. Talking about visas, again, I was very honored to announce with His Excellency the openness of country. When I was coming here, this is my 15th trip during 3 years, 1-5. First trip I remember that everyone was telling me that country is closed. You know, it's very difficult to go there. We announced on the second trip, and it was also 27th of September, World Tourism Day, the openness of country. First e-visa, I have it, historical one. But I will mention, and I want to congratulate His Excellency and all his team about one very important thing. During these 15 my visits, 14th was from VIP. VIP entrance like Secretary General, etc. Yesterday I came from the normal gate, normal terminal 3, which is absolutely new. Before coming from the VIP treatment, it took me 40-45 minutes. Yesterday we were in the car from 12 to 15 minutes. Yeah, and congratulate you. So those who are paying some VIP treatments, you don't need it because country is offering VIP treatments for everyone, every tourist like me. I came like this way, okay? So congratulations, Excellency. I'm sure that you are using VIP treatment, but you don't need it. So, and China is back. I'm sure that tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, we will see more and more Chinese tourists coming here. You know, connectivity is very important, and it needs support from governments because, you know, in China it's not as easy to recover and to reestablish the direct flight. So we are here. We have very close contact with Saudi government, the Chinese government, and we are happy and ready to push and to see more Chinese people here, more Chinese tourists, because culture is one of the best way and most interested part of where Chinese tourism is going. So this is a new country, old and new country for China, because when this country opened, then China closed at the same time, you know, so that's why it's discovery, and I'm sure that these events and this kind of relationship will support.
But there would definitely be huge potentials ahead, and I've entertained...
And I'm sorry, any investments. Saudis, they will invest in China, and China will invest in Saudi. This is this event is about.
It's definitely mutual investment into different two parties, and actually I have a similar experience. I got my e-visa. First, it's only taking me under 5 minutes, and I got my visa. I can go through the custom and clear my luggage super fast. I've entertained our class earlier this day that I said that because I have over 1 million followers on the internet, but most of them are not. They are scattered around the world, from Southeast Asia, Middle East, as well as Europe and the US. I've shared this photo of my hotel window in Riyadh, and a lot of people were commenting that they've seen more and more Chinese travelers visiting Saudi Arabia. I think there will be a lot of investors, but the tourism experience kind of continues to improve, and for the investor, they might stay and they become tourists, whatnot. So for the potentials, I've seen many hotel chains and the resource development from Orscom. Beautiful, beautiful. So what's the potential here as China and the Arab world becomes closer in terms of tourism?
I think the first step will be the cooperation between Saudi companies and Chinese conglomerates that can combine the strength of having a base in China and the Saudi partnership, having obviously the strength of the local knowledge and the local market. So the first step will be probably a lot of joint ventures. And I believe that there is a huge potential to form joint ventures between Chinese travel companies, Chinese hotel companies, Chinese tour operators, and local investors here who can develop jointly products for the Chinese tourists, because, you know, there are certain specifics that will be required by the Chinese tourists. You know, we've seen it in Egypt, and we've seen it in other countries as well, even in Switzerland. They cater for certain requirements, and it creates an enormous influx. So I believe this will be the first step. Later, the Chinese will find that they can do it alone, Now, as a foreign investor, you are welcome in the kingdom. You can come and do any project, whether you have a partner or not. It's up to you.
Yes.
And it will take some time. So initially, I believe that joint ventures will be the best route.
So basically collaboration, more cooperation and more collaborations.
Yeah, this will be the key. And I see it also by these huge Chinese contractors. They are usually the front runners.
Yes.
But then a lot of them will say, why should I go and build something, make a small profit and leave? I can go and build and stay. Or I bring a partner that will take care of the investment after I build it. So there is huge potential for Chinese companies in Saudi Arabia on each level, not just contracting or the providing of tourists, you know.
I've been speaking to some of the contractors from China and pretty active here in the Middle East, and they've said that you're happy to invest. They're not just finishing the construction and the infrastructure and then they leave. They want to actually be a...
It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
You know, you can't plant a tree and expect it to grow just because you're giving it a lot more water or fertilizer. The country has just opened. It is undervalued. I mean, the achievements that have already taken place in Saudi Arabia are not recognized yet. I still have a problem explaining to anybody how much more open Saudi Arabia has become towards business, towards foreigners, than many other countries that they usually compare it with. And it will take some time even for the world to acknowledge the achievements, because it's also not very normal. You know, like there is no other country that I have seen in my life evolve at such a speed. I mean, this is a completely new setup. This is a completely new country in comparison to what it was 10, 15 years ago. And therefore, it will take also time for the world to recognize this. That's the tough task of, I don't know which ministry, is to make these achievements obvious to everybody and understood and appreciated. Because sometimes people accuse even me, you know, and I have no interest to be like a spokesman, that I am biased and that it cannot be because, you know, somebody will tell me I was there 7 years ago. Oh, it was a big mess getting in. I stayed in the airport 1 hour, and if it wasn't for somebody that I called, you know, these kind of experiences are the ones people still repeat. You know, even the possibility to get an electronic visa in 5 minutes, as you described, is still not well known. You know,
I think there will be definitely from like the internet, the rise of internet and digital transformation. We're definitely talking with more during the second half of this panel. We're going to have business individuals, investors from around the world to join that discussion. But again, the accessibility to visas and the joint ventures, the beautiful hotel chains where the infrastructures will be built here in Saudi Arabia, that will for sure attract more visitors. But His Excellency, so Minister, what are some other measures or initiatives in place or already being taken to really kind of tailor to attract Chinese travelers?
Yes, the travel and tourism market or industry is very, very important for the world, not only from an economical side, but also from connecting people and getting people to know each other. We have done a lot of reforms in the last 3 years since we launched the National Tourism Strategy, starting from opening up the country, allowing 49 countries to get a visa online, and then any nationality with a valid UK, US or Schengen visa can also apply online, and the GCC residents can also apply online. And we opened up the country. We improved the connectivity because the connectivity is important. If you need to make a stop, your decision to travel will drop, and therefore we want to connect our main destinations with main cities. We're building an airport in Neom and another airport in the Red Sea, and therefore Red Sea, the new destination will be connected. We make the access very easy. We make the information available. We enriched in the last few years the offering, the retail, the FMP, and the residential. And this is just the start. We have a long way to go. I know we have about 5 minutes to close this session. I will give my colleagues the chance to speak also. But when I looked at the Chinese travel behavior, I found out there are two facts. One, they like to go for culture and heritage. They want to know about other nations' culture and heritage, and this is their main travel purpose. And another fact is 70 to 80% of the Chinese travelers, they travel within less than 5 hours flight, which means they're still in the East. And the world is East, West, and Arab culture. They need to go for beyond 5 hours, for example, 6, 7, to reach to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so on and so forth, to learn about other civilizations and other culture. If I encourage them, I hope the travel agents here, the Chinese travel agents here, can promote and encourage the Chinese to travel for more than 5 hours to reach to other destinations, other culture, and enrich their experience.
Absolutely. I found earlier I also visited Sri Lanka. So they are also trying to kind of regain their tourism industry after the pandemic. They are also trying to kind of extend people's stay and even just be in the conjunction. People will transfer there, but stay there and have great times.
But the extended stay, if I may jump in here,
Yes.
is one of the very few positive results of COVID. Because thanks to COVID, now it is socially acceptable that I don't come to meet you, but I Zoom you. And you know what this has led to? I mean, I see it in all our hotels. The stay has become much longer per traveler.
Yes.
And the mix between business and pleasure has become also very
common.
strong, which protects tourism as a whole from all these little shocks. You know, like in the middle of COVID, we had in Switzerland, for example, many people moved to hotels in the mountains and were conducting business over the computer. And since COVID, I think this trend will keep rising, and you will see a lot of travel, even to Saudi Arabia, where people will come in winter because it's much better weather than anywhere, and they will stay in touch with Europe and their businesses there, because as I said, it's socially acceptable.
Yes.
And that is a big breakthrough for tourism as a whole. We have much longer stays per traveler, and we have a mix between business and leisure and travel, which solidifies the impact of tourism, because the more you have better hotels and the more you have accessibility, the more likely people will go and do business while the family is having a good time. He can still be having his board meetings, his Zoom meetings.
Yes.
And this has been a huge push for tourism development worldwide.
Yes, absolutely. But to come back to regular tourisms, for a lot of Chinese travelers, at least what I understand is like they prefer to plan their trips ahead, and they want to stay one place at a very short time, 1 or 2 days, and then they want to visit the next one. For example, like in Riyadh, there is the Diriyah Gate project, beautiful with heritage, and some Chinese travelers may visit Riyadh for 1 day, visit all those sites, and then the next day to visit Dubai to see the Khalifa Tower.
Or they go to Daraya,
Yes.
and then after Daraya they can go to Al-Ola.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Mr. Zurab, what do you think, like right now, regionalization or globalization, how multiple trips, how important are multiple trips, like in one planning, important to like tourism recovery or to boost tourism here in the Arab world?
I think that once first Chinese group visit Alula, then Alula will have a problem, because there will be a huge flow of tourists, because this is what Chinese tourists is looking for, cultural heritage.
Yes.
And this is something amazing what we've seen several times there, and there is no enough key rooms.
Yes.
I will talk about one very important thing, and I will use my golden last 2 or 3 minutes. As His Excellency mentioned, the country is investing a lot of investment in tourism infrastructure,
Yes.
in roads, in hotels, in new resorts, etc. But where I am very proud, again with His Excellency, that we are investing in education. We are investing in education, and this is long-term project. These roads and hotels and infrastructure and airports he was mentioning needs people.
Yes.
So we will be in next 5-7 years ready. We are starting the program to give education to 100,000 Saudis. You know, 100,000
Yes.
for next 5 years. It's unprecedented project worldwide. It never happened, never. Like nobody is investing as much money as Saudis are investing in tourism. Nobody is doing this. Our partner there is talking about China's Hong Kong Polytechnical University, another very strong ally. So I just wanted to inform our audience that we are investing also in education, which is most important thing. There is huge space, huge opportunities to invest, and at the same time to have not less business than hotels are.
Yes.
So we are very happy that from our office here in Riyadh, we are investing in education, and the second part of our office is rural development. It was mentioned that rural development and people change and travelers change their minds. They prefer to travel not in big cities to discover new places, and our project Best Tourism Villages, this is another star project I would say, and very happy that it's happening from here, from Saudi Arabia. And Alula is one of the best tourism villages, by the way.
I really want to visit that part of the country, the kingdom, very much so. And I believe there will be more travelers from China and also across the world to visit this part of the Arab world or the Middle East. And thank you so much, gentlemen. And we had a great discussion. And in policy terms, I think it will be better, more accessibility to travelers, and of course, better hotels and infrastructure. And I'm ready to see it. I cannot wait for it. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
That way. Thank you so much. Really delve into all the business and investment aspects from a booming tourism here in the Middle East, around Arab world, and of course in Saudi Arabia, and have another great panelist, a great panel. And first, welcome His Excellency Mahad Washami Diri, the Minister of Tourism, Commerce and Trade for Djibouti of East Africa, with great, beautiful beaches along the Gulf of Aden. And Andrew Kam, Asia Pacific CEO for Haichang Ocean Park Holding from China. Mr. Ama Al-Madani, CEO for the Royal Commission for Al-Wula. We've been talking a lot about Al-Wula earlier, the earlier session. And of course, Mr. Fahad Hamidani, CEO for Saudi Tourism Authority. Last but not least, Zhao Qi, the chairman for Xinjiang International Group, one of the largest tourism and hotel groups in China and around the world. Zhao Qi Zong, Ning Ha. So first, let's jump to Djibouti for a little bit. Djibouti is a beautiful country, a lot of coasts, great destinations in the Gulf of Aden, and the tourism there is also rising. So how popular it is right now for Chinese travelers?
Merci de m'avoir donné la parole. Je voudrais d'abord remercier les ministres de l'Investissement pour l'invitation afin de participer à cette conférence entre la Chine et les pays arabes, qui est une conférence très importante. Comme vous le savez, la crise du Covid-19 a impacté fortement le secteur du tourisme, mais Toutefois, on constate une reprise forte des activités touristiques dans le monde.
There is a strong return for the activities of tourism, and tourism should be able to set a foundation for more than 6,000 job opportunities. For 10 years now, the tourism sector started to be more active, and also the International Tourism Organization also exerted efforts. All of these efforts represent hope, because this sector is very vital for the whole world and necessary, and this pushes us and empowers us to diversify the economies of countries. Also in the Arab and African countries, we will be able to achieve this diversification. The tourism sector in the Arab and African countries has witnessed a lot of development in the recent 2 to 3 years. And my small country, Djibouti, the government in Djibouti worked on identification of tourism sector as a very priority or a high priority industry in order to diversify our national economy. There are also other economies and other businesses that we started working on, starting with the policies and that works on the development of series of hotels and motels in order to double and to increase the accommodation and the accommodation capacities, and also the training programs for youth, young men and women who are interested in working in the field in order to join the sector by attracting them through different online programs as well. We have always worked on opening the floor for a visa, for application for e-visa. Djibouti, yes, is a small country geographically, but it has an ancient heritage that is very rich and attractive for tourists. We have a diversity of nature, natural landscapes, heritage and culture. We have different locations and sites like Lagasan. Lagasan is a distinguished location that is 250 kilometers far from the sea, and we have also the Pisu port in which you can find hot water. We have mountains, we have wonderful, spectacular landscapes. So Djibouti is a first-class tourism destination that can attract a lot of tourists from different countries. As for China, I think Chinese tourists have strong presence in Djibouti in different sectors and fields. We have a lot of visits, mutual visits between Djibouti and China for the discovery and the exploration of these neo-destinations and tourist destinations in Djibouti, like the ones that I mentioned, Lagasan and Ubey, and other places as well. So there is a strong presence from China, and there are a lot of tourists who come to our country, a lot of visitors who come to our country to identify and to get to know these attractive tourist destinations. We are also working on the protection of these locations because they're very important for our economy. It is our capital in the field of tourism in Djibouti.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Minister. Djibouti may be a small country in size, but a lot of more things to do. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful country. But then to attract more Chinese travelers. From my experience here in Saudi Arabia, I love the experience of outside a restaurant, there's a QR code, I can scan it, there will be information pop out, trip.com or whatnot. So let's now turn to Mr. Fahad Hamdani, the CEO for Saudi Tourism Authority. Speaking of digital transformation and enhancing tourism experience, how do you think that part, how can the Arab states and China leveraging on modern day technologies to boost tourism?
Thank you, Gerald, and glad to be joining here today. First, I'd like to mention His Excellency in the previous panel talked about the largest investment in tourism in the world being in Saudi. that investment with the leadership and the commitment and the total orchestration in government and business around the sector has paid out dividends. We're the second fastest growth. If you take Qatar and the World Cup, that makes us the fastest growing destination in the world. That would not have happened if we went to offline services. And if you think of what we started, when we first announced tourism, we started with an e-visa that got recognized as the best digital platform. So if that was our founding cornerstone of what we're building in this sector, we're taking everything through digital. And talking about also Samih in the previous session talked about how important accessibility, then connectivity, and so on. So all of this is paved through digital and work and seamless journey. And we understand that very well. So talking about visas, today we have the e-visa portal, we have the stopover visa, we have multiple visa offering, all offered online for Chinese travelers. Second, talking about airlines and connectivity. Today we have 50,000 seats capacity direct from Guangzhou. We're expecting to operate from Beijing in August, and another direct route. But what is important is Saudi Airlines have signed a digital transformation agreement with Accenture. And they're expecting to offer additional 32 digital services on their system. Then you talk about the online travelers and online booking. Today we have 26 agreements in place with OTAs from China and travel operations. So throughout the value chain, we take digital first. However, when you start reaching the destination, you want to be true to your culture and you want to be true to authenticity.
Yes.
And in that, we usually say, digitize the expected and humanize the unexpected. So while we're digitizing services that provides seamless experience and journey, we need to remain true to Arabia, uniquely Saudi, and authentically local in every destination you go to Saudi.
Great. Digitizing the expected and humanize the unexpected. Well said. Let's now turn to Zhaoji, Mr. Zhaoji from Jinjiang International. 赵吉总啊，您肯定非常了解，就是我们国人的旅遊习惯。
And Mr. Zhao, I think you know very well about the Chinese travelers' habits. Right now, digitalization is already a must-do way for the Chinese tourists. So what do you think for the Arabic countries or Saudi Arabia? How could your countries to attract Chinese to tourism using digitalization? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your cooperation with us and invite us for this business summit. Of course, I will talk a little bit more about this topic for the tourist industry. We have we are facing a big change of the environment. First is the pandemic, which lasted 3 years. This has brought a lot of change to the way of life and man's side and their activities in their traveling. Especially, the other factor is the internet. Internet is evolving in every corner of our life, and then tourism is undergoing a big change and a huge impact. How could we successfully adapt to this new situation and bring the industry further? I think digital transition is a must-go way. Nobody can change it. This is the trend. For example, first, I will just talk a little bit further. For this e-visa topic, this is already proof about the convenience for international traveling, because for international traveling before the pandemic, the biggest challenge was not language, the distance. It was also not the other habits or eating. There was no problem at all. And for tourism visa and also the political access is a big factor which affects the tourist development globally. And for e-visa, I think it must be one option to support the convenience to travel. Second, my opinion is that for the promoters of tourism, digital transition is a trend. It's a way we must take, especially for this internet area. We see that the young people, even the children, they are already get the information a lot that the mysterious orient, like China, for example, or mysterious Arabic countries. How could the children, the young people, to use a more direct way to grab the points of the modern tourism? So I think digital mode is a big and a better promotion way, which is better than text and then the traditional media, because we know that reading is not the only way to spread knowledge. And right now we see that multimedia is the right way to get knowledge and information. So second, in the promoting of tourism, we, for example, Jinjiang, our company, we are cooperating with the tourist industries in Saudi Arabia. We are working closely together to put the hospital people from Saudi Arabia, and then the big landscapes and the very impressing national specialities. We try to use multimedia, multi-ways to introduce these great things from Saudi Arabia to our potential tourist customers in China. Right now, I think in China, we see that in the tourist sector, we already have a group of people who are very passionate for Saudi Arabian travel. So now we are negotiating with Mr. Fah. Maybe in July this year, Jinjiang Travel Agency will be established in Riyadh. And in this year, we will complete the alignment for the Chinese tourists come to Saudi Arabia. Of course, then Mr. Fah will have to talk more with me. How do we welcome the Chinese tourism in Saudi Arabia? Third, I think for the enterprises in tourism, digital transition is a more way to expand your company. For example, to cut the cost and then to get the advantage in the fierce competition. This is a must choose option. So in this way, Jinjiang, my company, is also discovering, because our traditional business mode was already impacted from the internet. So during this process, we are willing to cooperate together to see some new ways, especially for international cultural exchange and tour traveling. possibilities. For example, from a national digitalization or the convenience for tourists, or for the tourist policies from the country. Thank you very much.
Gerald, can I just...
Sure, yeah.
I would like to thank him for not just being the largest that is investing in Saudi tourism, but being the first. Zhenjiang Group also owns Radisson hotels, and we're soon going to be announcing their network, over 40 properties, to be the first network fully China-ready. So thank you for all your commitment to this part of the world and to Saudi in specific.
So definitely from Mr. Zhao's remarks, digitalization is not only improving tourism experience, but also helping to perfecting, to help improve the industry as well. So yesterday, I was indulging myself on YouTube about Awula. I was watching a lot of influencers showing their experience in Awula. Is a new economic zone built here or developed here in Saudi Arabia, and we're also very honored to have Al Mahmadi, the CEO for the Royal Commission for Awula, on the panel. Just share with us a little bit your strategies, for example, using social media or other technology or digitalizations to let more people know about Awula, or even to develop tourism further in Awula.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to highlight first that Saudi Arabia and China actually share a deep connection, both countries, to their ancient cultures, magnificent historical sites, and the past. Both nations have commonalities in sharing pride in their ancient civilizations and the potential of their vast landscape and cultural identity. And we do believe that these newly emerging assets for us in Saudi Arabia are key ingredients to creating a sustainable and diversified economy. And I think if we think about the word sustainable, sometimes we hit a tone for the environment only, but it's really environment, energy, and economy. Al-Ula is situated in a place that's a gateway to what we call North Arabia. We're surrounded by huge treasures of nature, technology, NEOM project in north of Al-Ula, Red Sea in the west of Al-Ula, and what investors want is demand and scale. And so far, over the past 4 years, we've grown visitors in Al-Ula from 20,000 per year to an excess of 280,000. So good news for everybody. Demand seems to be tracing a good trajectory. But they also need consistency. And as Fahad said, and His Excellency Al-Khatib, the Minister of Tourism, the size of the investment we're pouring into tourism should send a very clear signal that this is consistent. And it's not going to go anywhere. It's our cultural oil. It's to be leveraged for the diversification targets listed in Vision 2030. In addition to that, investors need people to de-risk their investment. And one way we de-risk investments in Al-Ula is not to look at tourism as the only driver for occupancy and demand behavior and consumer spending, is we work on a 360 approach to more or less a local government. Tourism for sure will be around 75% of our GDP. So it is a main driver for Al-Ula's economy. But we have placed above $200 million to date to strengthen what we call support industries. We also how single asset economies suffered through the pandemics. You know, you close a heritage site, people lose their job. So I don't think we should live through this again. We've got technologies and digitization and enablement, and we always have to have industries that pick up the cyclical behavior of tourism, so our partners in resorts and hotels, our operators, can live through more or less support network. Today in Al-Ula, we have had more than 600 days of Hollywood film productions, namely the one showing in the theaters now, Kandahar by Gerard Butler. We are going to open in August 2 qualified, like Hollywood technology qualified studios. so that in our low season, we put incentives for people to still come to shoot films. We're going to announce soon the hosting of the largest World Archaeological Forum. We are now by far, compared by any matrix around the world, the largest spender on research and archaeology. For simple reason is Al-Ula sits in between major civilizations that have been exploited and studied for the last 200 years, and Al-Ula remains in its early days. So by having such activities, the economy demands more spending, more visitors beyond tourism, which de-risk investment from the cyclical nature of tourism. Last, I want to say that investors can't work alone. And I feel that when we talk about SMEs, we need to uplift our thinking from desperation and the sense of they need help, because entrepreneurs, majority of them know their business, they hit the market, they understand the nuances of the local market a lot better than the regulators, in my opinion, anywhere in the world. And we have invested in making sure entrepreneurs are locally savvy. What does this mean? Any Chinese company that wants to enter Al-Ula market and serve North Arabia, Neom, Red Sea, Amala, and others, they find people who have already cleaned up all the problems that may be big for investors, but it's really simple for entrepreneurs. And as growth strategy, they can be acquired, they can be easy access to services, and we're proud to see now that our very small network of entrepreneurs have produced last year gross revenue of around 7.1 million Saudi riyal. It's small in the large scheme of things, but it's a double-digit growth year on year. And the last thing is, I think digitization is we are building Al-Ula for a generation that is yet to come. So I think digitization is not necessarily a flag or a star, it's a necessity. There are people who are living today that don't understand the world without digitization, so we have to understand that it's part of doing business. Digitization is simply transparency, ease of business, lower conversion and customer acquisition rates. Our current digital infrastructure, which will be phase 1 out to market before our upcoming season, October, establishes very easy way for OTAs and others to engage. And we're very inspired actually by the work of the Saudi Tourism Authority, because they have thrown the target so far with their initial product that everybody else now has to up their game.
Absolutely. As Mr. Al-Madani said, like entrepreneurships or kind of focus on digitalization that are really looking forward ahead of time, that can for sure boost tourism. And also I want to kind of bring back to the idea of like filmmakings or conventions. So tourism is not just go sightseeing. It's a lot of more things to do, more activities. And let's turn to Andrew Kam. So Mr. Kam has extensive experience with a lot of different international organizations, Chinese Wanda, as well as Disneyland. And now with Haichang Ocean Park Holding from China, that's one of the largest theme parks owners from China. So what do you see? What's more surrounding tourism? What are some of the other potential for subsectors?
Well, first of all, it is
首先
my honor to be here.
非常荣幸来到这里， 谢谢邀请我来到这里。
And I would, before answering that, I would like to
在我回答之前呢，
His Excellency
我想
Mr. Zhao
说一下我们之前呢提到了我们的阁下还有赵总呢也提到了这个技术。
as a driver.
技术呢是一个驱动力。
Obviously, technology
我们知道这个很显然，今天的技
perform
术
a lot
呢
of functions.
发挥了很多不同的作用。
And I think,
所以我觉得
right now,
前面两位
of technology
的观点我也是认同的。我们最后呢要看到。 技术会给我们带来满意度，给我们带来好的体验，同时呢，让提高我们运营的这个效率。它是一个工具。如果我们想大数据这件事的时候呢，包括这个虚拟现实，包括现在的 ChatGPT， 所有这些技术呢，它们都还是工具，目的呢就是为了提高我们 的这种体验的这种维度，所以，整体上来说呢，旅游业呢，它其实是实现了，甚至超越了，我们现在的这样一种体验的期望，让我们的这个游客呢能够感觉更满意，说更多的 wow， 更被这样的旅游产品能够打动。所以，如果我们谈到旅游业产品，我们会注意到有一些事情，他们其实就相当于这个旅游业的这样一个架构。从整体上来说，我们绝对需要收入，需要有这样一些娱乐的时间、休息时间、生活方式，还有这个人口结构，这些都是非常重要的这个驱动力。如果我们来看，或者说我们来想来创造这样一个旅游产品的话，以上几点都很重要。最后呢，我还想说的是资源呢，人力资源呢，包括自然资源都很重要。阿曼德刚才也提到过，自然资源、自然的这个景色、历史文化遗迹，这些资源呢，我们都可以用来发展我们的旅游产品。如果我们把所有这些因素放到一起，那我们就能有一个这样一个不同的产品组合，不仅仅是来满足当前游客的这个需求，同时还可以创造一个这种多元化，他们就是未来期望的这样一种方向。所以我觉得这是一个非常丰富的、非常复杂的，而且分层次的这样一种体验。这对我们游客来说是这样的。所以从这一点来说，它是非常重要的，对我们旅游业来说是非常重要的，对任何一个国家都是重要。那当然，很多这样的旅游这样的活动啊、产品呢，都是要考虑提高我们的这样体验，但同时呢，还是要提供娱乐的功能。那么娱乐其实也可以成为这个旅游的一个重要原因，包括很多网上的这样的网红啊，他们会在带来收入的同时，也娱乐，给我们带来娱乐。所以呢，我们看到在红海呢有很多的这个机会，包括吉布提。
والمنتجعات الجميلة. ما الذي يمكن لجيبوتي أن تقدمه للمسافرين بما في ذلك القادمين من الصين في دولتكم؟ معالي الوزير.
Merci. En fait, d'abord, je voulais souligner que la République de et les pays frères de la République, l'Arabie saoudite, ont signé déjà une convention de partenariat et de coopération pour le développement des secteurs du tourisme. C'est très important. Djibouti est un petit pays, mais qui dispose beaucoup de potentialités. J'avais souligné tout à l'heure de très, très belles plages, mais également de sites touristiques emblématiques. J'avais dit tout à l'heure de sites qui n'existaient pas dans les autres pays, mais uniques seulement pour la République de Djibouti, comme le lac Apé. Je vous disais, c'était 153 mètres au-dessus.
We also have, for example, a location that is 150 meters above sea level, and it has a mineral hot water, and we have also our seas are full of fish, and we have a seabed that was well preserved, and it's rich and well preserved. In Djibouti, we also work on environmental tourism. So we take good care of our natural resources, and since 2 years ago, we started a program that all visitors or tourists come to Djibouti have a better satisfaction, and the numbers doubled in the last 2 years. As for the maritime sites as well, we are a country that is in a place that is shared among 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe. And this is a location that is very strategic, that provides us with good air connectivity as well. We are also developing our air transportation capabilities, and we have other potentials that are very important to see in Djibouti. And I think that our colleagues in China will find a lot of things that they will be pleased with when they visit Djibouti. There are ships that visit Djibouti from time to time, and they are visiting attractive sites. Our country works heavily on developing this sector, and we do our best in order to create an e-commerce system, and we also have a communication system that provides the necessary information to help develop the tourism sector. So Djibouti is an ideal destination. We are the gateway for Africa, for Eastern Africa, next to Somalia and Ethiopia. So we can provide different tourism packages that will be attractive for everyone. From Djibouti, you can go on and visit Kenya and other destinations in Africa. So Djibouti's location amongst these 3 continents makes it a destination, a gateway that leads to other destinations in other countries. So, and we are doing our best in order to develop the sector. And our seas are still virgin, our beaches are still virgin, and untrodden territories. We take good care of our seas. And our natural landscape as well is spectacular. And it is very difficult for me to describe it in words, but you have to see them yourselves.
If you don't mind, on something quite quickly.
Yes.
I believe when we mentioned entertainment and the relationship to tourism, this is why I think the Saudi Vision 2030.
这也是我认为沙特的2030这个愿景呢，是一个很重要的部分，因为好的投资是很重要的，因为我们需要有多元的这样一个多元性，因为有更多的人来旅游，我们才能看到这样的机会。这也就是沙特的这个愿景的这个魅力之处。那现在我们看的竞争者呢，其实就是这个智能手机。我觉得这个个性化其实是非常重要的，因为我们的运营商、我们的酒店呢，都要提前一部分来考虑。那比如说我们的游客来旅游的时候，他们其实想要睡到一张非常舒服的床上，所以我们必须要这个世界各个方面都是紧密联系起来，来考虑到能够让这个旅游地能够带来更最大的这个舒适性。我有想说2点，一个是投资行业，我们投资了这么多，然后政府的投资会转化到私营的企业。所以在考虑到你的服务和产品方面，我告诉大家，是的，我们旅游部的同事，还有旅游基金，我们非常欢迎，并且愿意和你们一起承担这个成本和。
The land of Arabia has witnessed over the years, right from the birth of humanity, from the Adams and Eve, where they landed, to the prophecies, to Noah and the ship in the wrecks in the Red Sea, to the civilizations and the roots that left us, not only civilizations and tombs, but wisdoms from these civilizations, to the birthplace of the language, down to the Prophet Muhammad and what that translated into this holy land for Muslims, and more of that to the culture of the Saudi Arabia that started in hundreds of years, and now we have so many sites. But the beauty is not just the historical sites. The beauty is not just that we have the best sea in the world, or we have the best diverse topography, the highest lands in this region. I think the beauty is what all those people and the people of today have left us, or have left in their hearts to give you all.
Absolutely.
This land is calling.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And of course, for the people who are watching this panel on the internet, and because we're also broadcasting it globally, and for a lot of Chinese travelers, when you visit in the future, you can pay a visit to all those touristy spots and cultural spots to learn the local culture, to get connected with the people, and of course, stay in Xinjiang hotels in the future, very much so. And I believe Xinjiang International has already like 40 different properties here in Saudi Arabia, and that will be even more in the future. So thank you so much, gentlemen, and a great session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chiching, and many thanks to your dear guests as well.